Single father Jake faces eviction with $3,200 owed and an empty fridge. Taking a $200 security job to buy groceries, he saves CEO Victoria Sterling's life by taking a bullet meant for her. What he discovers next about the shooter's plan to frame him will change everything forever. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Daddy? Lily's voice came from behind him. She was holding her favorite stuffed rabbit, Mr. Whiskers, and wearing the same dress she'd worn to school 3 days in a row. Jake quickly folded the notice and shoved it in his pocket. What is it, princess? Mrs. Chin next door made extra soup. She wants to know if we want some. Jake's pride wanted to say no, but his empty stomach and Lily's hopeful face made the decision for him. They hadn't had a real meal in 2 days. That sounds nice, he said, forcing a smile. Mrs. Chun was a kind elderly woman who had lived next door for 20 years. She pretended not to notice when Jake couldn't afford groceries, always making too much food, and offering to share. As they ate the warm chicken soup, Lily chattered about school. Tommy's dad came to career day today. He's a firefighter. Sarah's mom is a doctor. What should I tell them you do, Daddy? Jake's heart broke a little more. He worked odd jobs, cleaning offices at night, doing construction when he could find it, delivering food when his old car would start. Nothing he could be proud of, nothing stable enough to call a career. I help people, he said finally. That's what I do. Lily smiled. I like that. You're a helper. After dinner, Jake tucked Lily into bed and kissed her forehead. I love you to the moon and back, he whispered. And I love you to infinity, she replied, their nightly ritual. Jake sat at their kitchen table and opened his laptop, an ancient machine he'd bought used 3 years ago. He needed work, any work that paid cash. That's when he saw it. Security guard needed, corporate event, $200 cash, 1 day only. $200. It wasn't much, but it would buy groceries and maybe buy him some time with the landlord. Jake clicked apply immediately. The next morning, Jake got a call from Premier Event Security. Mr. Thompson? This is Maria from Premier Security. We reviewed your application and we'd like to offer you the position. Do you have experience with corporate events? Jake had worked security at a few concerts and weddings over the years. Yes, ma'am. I'm reliable and I take the job seriously. Perfect. The event is this Saturday at the Grandview Convention Center. It's a corporate speech by Victoria Sterling, CEO of Sterling Enterprises. High-profile client, so we need our best people. Victoria Sterling. Even Jake had heard of her. She was one of the youngest female CEOs in the country, known for turning around failing companies and creating thousands of jobs. She was also known for her speeches about social responsibility and helping working families. I'll be there, Jake said. Saturday morning, Jake dropped Lily off at Mrs. Chen's apartment. You look handsome in your suit, Mrs. Chen said. Jake's suit was 10 years old and didn't fit quite right anymore, but it was the only one he owned. Thanks for watching, Lily. I'll be back by evening. Take your time, dear. Lily and I are going to bake cookies. The Grandview Convention Center was impressive, all glass and steel, the kind of place Jake had only seen from the outside. Inside, hundreds of business people were gathering for Victoria Sterling's speech about corporate responsibility in modern America. Jake's job was simple: stand near the back of the auditorium, watch for anything suspicious, and make sure no one disrupted the event. First time working one of these? Asked another security guard, an older man named Pete. Yeah. Pretty fancy crowd. Pete nodded. Sterling's a good one though. Not like some of these rich folks. She actually cares about regular people. My cousin works at one of her factories, great benefits, fair wages. She even paid for his kid's surgery when insurance wouldn't cover it. Jake was impressed but skeptical. Rich people talked a good game, but in his experience they only cared about other rich people. At exactly 2 p.m. Victoria Sterling took the stage. Jake was surprised. He'd expected someone cold and corporate, but Victoria Sterling had warm eyes and a genuine smile. She was probably in her mid-30s, dressed professionally but not flashy. Good afternoon, everyone, she began. I want to talk to you today about something that keeps me awake at night. Victoria Sterling's voice carried clearly through the auditorium. We live in a country where a single medical emergency can bankrupt a family. Where parents work 2 or 3 jobs and still can't afford rent. Where children go to bed hungry while companies post record profits. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. I know because I was one of those children, Victoria continued. My mother raised me alone after my father left when I was 7. She worked as a hotel maid during the day and cleaned offices at night. I remember eating cereal for dinner because it was all we could afford. Jake felt something stir in his chest. This wasn't the typical corporate speech he'd expected. I remember the shame I felt when other kids talked about their vacations while I worried about whether we'd have electricity next month. I remember my mother crying quietly in the kitchen when she thought I was asleep, holding bills she couldn't pay. The audience was completely quiet now. Some people looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. I remember the day we got evicted from our apartment. I was 12 years old, carrying my belongings in garbage bags, wondering what I had done wrong to deserve this life. Jake's throat tightened. He looked around the room at all the well-dressed business people and wondered how many of them had ever faced eviction. But I also remember the people who helped us, Victoria said, her voice growing stronger. Mrs. Rodriguez, who let us sleep on her couch for 2 months. Mr. Kim, who gave my mother extra hours at the hotel. The teacher who secretly bought me school supplies so I wouldn't be embarrassed. She paused, looking out at the audience. These people weren't rich. They weren't powerful. They were just ordinary people who chose kindness over indifference. They saved our lives with small acts of generosity. Jake found himself really listening now, not just doing his job. That's why I'm here today, Victoria continued, to announce the Sterling Family Foundation. We're committing $50 million to help families in crisis. Emergency rent assistance, medical bill support, food programs, and job training. The audience began to applaud, but Victoria held up her hand. But money isn't enough. We need to change how we think about poverty in America. These aren't lazy people looking for handouts. These are hardworking families who are one emergency away from disaster. She looked directly toward the back of the room, and Jake felt like she was speaking to him personally. The single father working 3 jobs to keep his family housed. The mother choosing between medicine for her child or groceries. The elderly person rationing medications they can't afford. These are our neighbors, our fellow Americans, and they deserve better. That's when Jake noticed him. A man in a dark jacket was moving through the crowd near the front of the auditorium. Something about his movements was wrong, too focused, too determined. He was pushing past seated people, heading toward the stage. Jake started moving forward, his security training kicking in. The man reached inside his jacket. "Gun!" Jake shouted. Chaos erupted. People screamed and dove under their seats. The man pulled out a pistol and raised it toward Victoria Sterling, who stood frozen at the podium. Jake didn't think. He ran. He sprinted down the aisle, pushing through panicking people. The gunman was taking aim at Victoria when Jake launched himself forward. The gun fired just as Jake threw his body between the bullet and its target. The impact felt like being hit by a truck. Jake felt himself falling, felt the world spinning around him. Through the chaos and screaming, he could hear Victoria Sterling's voice calling for help. Then everything went black. Jake woke up in a hospital bed 4 days later. His chest was wrapped in bandages and every breath hurt. A nurse noticed he was awake. "Welcome back, Mr. Thompson. You've been unconscious for several days." "My daughter?" Jake croaked. "Lily. Where is she?" "She's here. She's been here every day with your neighbor, Mrs. Chin. Can I see her?" The nurse smiled. "Of course. Let me get her." Lily burst into the room, tears streaming down her face. "Daddy? I was so scared you weren't going to wake up." Jake hugged her as tight as he could with his injured arm. "I'm okay, princess. I'm not going anywhere. Mrs. Chin said you saved someone. She said you're a real hero. I just did what I had to do." Behind Lily, Jake saw a woman he recognized, Victoria Sterling. She looked exhausted, her eyes red from crying. "Mr. Thompson," she said softly, "I owe you my life." Jake tried to sit up straighter. "Just doing my job, ma'am?" "No," Victoria said firmly. "What you did went far beyond any job. You risked everything to save a complete stranger." She looked at Lily, who was holding her father's hand. "And you have such a beautiful daughter. She's been telling me all about you." Lily beamed. "I told her you're the best daddy in the whole world." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sure you are." Over the next week, Victoria visited Jake every day. At first, he thought it was just guilt or obligation. But as the days passed, he realized she genuinely cared about him and Lily. "Why do you keep coming?" Jake asked one afternoon. Victoria was quiet for a moment. "Because you did something extraordinary. And because I want to understand what kind of person risks their life for a stranger." She had been asking about his life, his struggles, his work. Jake found himself opening up to her in ways he hadn't expected. "I saw the eviction notice in your jacket pocket," she said gently. "The hospital had to go through your belongings." Jake's face burned with embarrassment. I'll figure something out. I always do. What if you didn't have to figure it out alone? What do you mean? Victoria leaned forward. I want to offer you a job. Head of my personal security team. Jake shook his head. Ma'am, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not qualified for something like that. I'm just a guy who picks up odd jobs. You proved your qualifications when you took a bullet for me. The salary is $150,000 per year, plus full benefits and housing. Jake thought he was hallucinating from the pain medication. 150,000? There's more. I'm setting up a college fund for Lily. Full scholarship to any university she chooses. Jake started crying. He couldn't help it. For years he had struggled alone, fighting to give Lily even the basics. Now someone was offering to change their entire lives. Why? He whispered. Why would you do this? Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Because when I was making that speech about helping working families, you were living exactly what I was talking about. You're the single father I mentioned, working multiple jobs and still facing eviction. But more than that, you showed me something I'd forgotten. What's that? That there are still people who choose to do the right thing, even when it costs them everything. In a room full of wealthy, powerful people, it was the security guard who stood up and took action. 2 weeks later, Jake was recovering at home when Victoria came to visit with some unexpected news. There's something I need to tell you, she said, looking nervous. Something about why I was targeted. You don't have to explain anything to me, Jake said. I do because it affects you now. The man who shot you, his name is Derek Coleman. He worked for Sterling Enterprises until 6 months ago. Jake waited for her to continue. He was embezzling money from the company pension fund. When we discovered it, we had to fire him and press charges. But here's what you don't know. The money he stole was from a fund specifically designed to help employees in crisis. Victoria's voice grew heavy. The emergency assistance program I mentioned in my speech? Derek had been stealing from it for 2 years. Families who applied for help were denied because he had taken their money. Jake felt sick. How much? $800,000. Money that should have helped hundreds of families like yours. She looked at Jake with tears in her eyes. If we hadn't hired extra security that day, if you hadn't been there, he would have killed me. And he would have gotten away with it. The investigation would have been dropped, the money never recovered. But we caught him, Jake said. We did. And here's the part that will shock you. When we recovered the money and investigated further, we found something else. Victoria pulled out a folder. Derek had a list of families he planned to frame for the thefts. Families he claimed were using fake information to get assistance they didn't deserve. She opened the folder and Jake's heart stopped. There, at the top of the list, was his name. You? Jake whispered. Victoria nodded. You and Lily were going to be his scapegoats. He had falsified documents that would have made it look like you had applied for assistance under false pretenses and stolen money from the fund. Jake felt the world spinning. But I never applied for anything. I know. But he had created fake applications, fake bank records, everything needed to destroy your reputation and send you to prison. If his plan had worked, you would have been arrested within days of his attack on me. So when I saved your life, you saved your own life too. And Lily's future. Jake's first day working for Victoria was surreal. He had his own office, his own parking space, and people who treated him with respect. But the best part was that he could provide for Lily in ways he'd never dreamed possible. They moved into a company-owned house, 3 bedrooms, a backyard, and a kitchen with appliances that actually worked. Lily had her own room for the first time in her life. Daddy, why are you crying? Lily asked as she unpacked her toys in her new bedroom. Happy tears, princess. These are the happiest tears I've ever cried. Lily hugged him tight. I love our new house. But I love you most. At her new school, Lily thrived. She had new clothes, school supplies, and opportunities Jake could never have provided before. But more importantly, Jake could attend every school event, help with homework, and be the father he'd always wanted to be. Mr. Thompson, Lily's teacher said at a parent conference, Lily is such a bright, kind child. She talks about you constantly. She's very proud of her hero daddy. Jake smiled. She's proud of me? Oh yes. She tells everyone how brave you are, how hard you work, and how much you love her. You've raised a wonderful daughter. 6 months later, Victoria asked Jake to help her with something special. I want you to help me run the Sterling Family Foundation, she said. You understand what these families are going through better than anyone. I don't know anything about running a foundation, Jake protested. You know about struggling. You know about choosing between rent and groceries. You know about the shame of needing help and the gratitude when someone offers it. That's exactly what I need. The foundation became Jake's passion. He reviewed applications from families in crisis, approved emergency assistance, and personally visited families to understand their needs. Mr. Thompson helped us when our son needed surgery, one mother wrote in a thank you letter. He didn't just approve the funding, he sat with us in the hospital waiting room and held my hand when I cried. Jake Thompson saved our family, wrote another father. Not just with the rent assistance but with his kindness. He made us feel human again. As months passed, Jake and Victoria's professional relationship deepened into something more. Victoria often joined Jake and Lily for dinner, helped with homework, and genuinely seemed to enjoy their simple family routines. I love having Victoria around, Lily said one night as Jake tucked her into bed. She feels like family. What do you mean, princess? She looks at you the way mommies look at daddies in movies. And she looks at me like she loves me. Jake's heart skipped. He had noticed the looks too, the way Victoria smiled when she watched him with Lily, the way her hand lingered when she passed him coffee. One evening, as they sat on the back porch watching Lily play in the yard, Victoria turned to him. Can I tell you something? Of course. That day you saved my life, you didn't just stop Derek from killing me. You showed me what I'd been missing. What's that? Real love. The kind of love that risks everything for someone else. I'd never seen that before, not in my world of business deals and board meetings. Victoria looked at Jake with tears in her eyes. Watching you with Lily, seeing how you sacrifice for her, how you put her needs before your own, that's what love looks like. That's what I want in my life. Jake felt his heart racing. Victoria. I know this is complicated. I know I'm your boss and there are 100 reasons why this could be difficult. But I had to tell you, I'm falling in love with you. Both of you. That night, after Lily was asleep, Jake and Victoria talked on the porch under the stars. I love you too, Jake said quietly. I've been fighting it for months, telling myself you're out of my league, that this is just gratitude or guilt. It's not gratitude, Victoria said firmly. It's love. Real, deep, life-changing love. What about Lily? She has to be the priority. Victoria took his hands. Lily should be the priority. She'll always be the priority. I don't want to be her stepmother, I want to be her mom. If she'll have me. I think she'd love that, Jake said, tears in his eyes. There's something else I want to tell you, Victoria said. Something I've never told anyone. Jake waited. The reason I work so hard to help families like yours, the reason the foundation means so much to me, it's because I never had someone like you in my life growing up. What do you mean? I never had a father who would risk everything for me. I never had someone who put my needs before their own. When I saw you take that bullet, when I watched you with Lily, I realized what I'd been missing my whole life. Victoria was crying now. You didn't just save my life that day. You showed me what real family looks like. A year later, on the anniversary of the shooting, Jake had a plan. He had been carrying the ring for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. They were at the Foundation's annual charity dinner, an event that raised money for families in crisis. Jake was scheduled to speak about his experience as both a recipient and administrator of the Foundation's help. As he stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd of donors and volunteers, Jake's eyes found Victoria and Lily at their table. A year ago I was facing eviction, Jake began. I was a single father working odd jobs, struggling to provide for my daughter. I took a security job to make rent money, never imagining it would change my life forever. The audience was silent, listening intently. When I saw someone threatening Victoria Sterling's life, I didn't think about the consequences. I just acted. But what happened next taught me something important about the power of kindness. Jake looked at Victoria, who was smiling through tears. Victoria didn't just offer me a job. She offered me and my daughter a future. But more than that, she offered us love. Real, unconditional, life-changing love. He stepped away from the podium and walked toward their table. Victoria Sterling, you saved my life just as much as I saved yours. You gave me purpose, hope, and a family I never dreamed possible. Jake got down on one knee as the entire room gasped. Will you marry me? Victoria was sobbing as she said, yes. Of course, yes. Lily jumped up from her seat and threw her arms around both of them. Does this mean Victoria will really be my mom now? If you want me to be, Victoria said through her tears. I've wanted that since the day we met. Lily exclaimed. Their wedding was held at the Foundation's community center, surrounded by families they had helped over the past year. Instead of expensive flowers and fancy decorations, The room was filled with handmade cards from children whose families had been saved from eviction, whose medical bills had been paid, whose lives had been changed. Lily walked down the aisle as the flower girl, wearing a white dress that made her look like a princess. She carried a sign that read, "Here comes my new mom." Jake wore a new suit that actually fit, but he had kept something from his old life, the security badge he'd worn the day he saved Victoria. It was pinned to his jacket as a reminder of where they'd come from. Victoria wore a simple but beautiful dress and carried a bouquet made from flowers grown in the Foundation's community garden. "I never thought I'd see this day," Victoria said as they danced their first dance as husband and wife. "Which part?" Jake asked. "The part where I have everything I ever wanted, a husband who loves me for who I am, not what I have, and a daughter who chose me to be her mother." Jake looked at Lily, who was dancing with Mrs. Chen nearby. "She didn't choose you, we both did." 5 years later, Emma graduated from high school as valedictorian. In her graduation speech she spoke about courage, sacrifice, and the power of love to transform lives. "My father taught me that heroes aren't people without fear," Lily said to the crowd. "They're people who do the right thing even when they're afraid. My mother taught me that success means nothing if you don't use it to help others." She looked at Jake and Victoria in the audience. Together they showed me that families aren't just made by blood, they're made by choice, by love, and by the decision to put each other first. After the ceremony, a reporter approached the family. "Mr. Thompson, looking back, do you ever regret taking that bullet?" Jake looked at his wife and daughter, at the life they had built together, at the hundreds of families they had helped through the foundation. "That bullet gave me everything," Jake said. "It gave me a career with purpose, a wife who loves me, and the chance to give my daughter the life she deserves. Most importantly, it taught me that sometimes the worst moment of your life can become the first moment of your best life." Today, the Sterling Thompson Foundation has helped over 5,000 families avoid eviction, paid medical bills for hundreds of children, and provided job training for thousands of adults. Jake serves as executive director, while Victoria continues to run Sterling Enterprises with a focus on worker benefits and family support. Lily is now studying pre-med at Stanford University, planning to become a pediatric surgeon. She volunteers at free clinics during school breaks and has started her own organization providing tutoring for children in low-income families. Every year on the anniversary of the shooting, they visit the convention center where it all began. They bring flowers to honor the security guards who keep people safe, and they renew their commitment to helping families in crisis. "Do you think we've made a difference?" Jake asks Victoria as they stand in the same auditorium where their lives changed forever. Victoria looks around at the memorial wall they've created, photos of every family the foundation has helped, letters from children who stayed in school because their parents didn't lose their homes, thank you cards from parents whose kids survived medical crises. "We've made more than a difference," Victoria says. "We've created a legacy of love." That evening, as they tucked their adopted son Marcus into bed, named after Jake's middle name, 5-year-old Marcus asks his favorite question. "Tell me the story again, Daddy. About the day you became a hero." Jake sits on the edge of the bed with Victoria and Lily beside him. "I wasn't trying to be a hero, buddy. I was just trying to do the right thing. But it made everything better, right?" "It made everything possible," Jake says. "Sometimes one moment of courage can change your whole world. Will I be brave like you someday?" "You already are," Jake says, kissing his forehead. "You have your sister's heart and your mom's strength. You can do anything." As they turn off the lights, Jake reflects on the journey that brought them here. From eviction notices and empty refrigerators to a house full of love and laughter. From working odd jobs to running a foundation that changes lives. From a single father struggling alone to a man surrounded by family. He thinks about Derek Coleman, now serving 20 years in prison for embezzlement and attempted murder. Jake visits him sometimes, bringing books and hope that redemption is possible for everyone. He thinks about all the families still struggling, still choosing between rent and groceries, still one emergency away from disaster. The work isn't finished, it may never be finished. But every day they help one more family find hope. Most of all, he thinks about the moment that changed everything. A split-second decision to risk his life for a stranger had given him a lifetime of love. The truth that shocked him wasn't just about Derek Coleman's plan to frame him. The real truth was simpler and more powerful. Sometimes when you save someone else's life, you save your own. Sometimes taking a bullet for a stranger can give you everything you never dared to dream of. And sometimes, just sometimes, love really can change the world.